This is not a story told to entertain you. It is a truth revealed to expose you. History did not vanish. It fractured, and its echoes still breathe. Empires fell. Prophets warned. Nations witnessed miracles, then betrayed them. What you are about to hear is not myth, not legend, not comfort. It is a twisted chapter of reality, where power corrupts the soul, where faith is tested after victory, and where the past whispers warnings to the present. Listen carefully, because this story is not finished. You are living in it. What happened after Pharaoh drowned? The sea closed, but the test did not. Pharaoh drowned. The man who claimed divinity was swallowed by creation itself. The sea, once a path of mercy, became a tomb of humiliation. But the Quran does not linger on his death, because the real danger was never Pharaoh. It was what lived after him. As Bani Israel stood on the opposite shore, soaked, trembling, alive, they believed the nightmare had ended. Allah knew better. Because oppression scars the soul, and scars do not vanish when chains are removed. Freedom had arrived, but faith had not yet taken root. And so Allah began revealing a truth humanity still refuses to accept. The fall of a tyrant is not the rise of a righteous nation. Chapter 1. Slaves without chains. Bani Israel walked freely for the first time in centuries. Their feet moved without permission. Their backs were no longer bent beneath commands shouted in anger. No whips cut the air behind them. No overseer counted their breaths. No decree of death waited for hesitation. Freedom had arrived. But freedom, when given too quickly, can expose what captivity has buried. Because although their bodies had crossed the sea, something else remained behind. Something invisible, something far more stubborn than iron chains. Submission to visible power. Slavery had not merely controlled their labor. It had trained their instincts. It had taught them where to look when afraid, who to obey when uncertain, what to worship when desperate. When a people are ruled for generations, guidance without force begins to feel unreal. Authority becomes sacred. Power becomes proof, and anything unseen feels unsafe. Pharaoh had demanded worship through fear. Egypt had displayed divinity through monuments, gold, and spectacle. And Bani Israel had learned a dangerous lesson. If it cannot be seen, it cannot be trusted. So when they encountered a people devoted to idols, figures carved, painted, displayed, and adored, their reaction was not shock. It was familiarity. The idols did not speak. They did not command. They did not save. But they were visible. And visibility felt like certainty. So they turned to Musa, the very prophet through whom Allah had split the sea, and they said words that still echo with unease. O Musa, make for us a god, just as they have gods. Not because they denied Allah, not because they rejected revelation, not because they doubted the miracle, but because faith without an object felt incomplete. They did not ask to abandon Allah. They asked to add something. A symbol, a shape, a substitute for trust. This was not open disbelief. This was corrupted faith, a heart that acknowledges Allah, yet cannot rely on Him fully. A soul that believes in the unseen, yet craves something it can point to. A people freed from chains, yet still kneeling inside. And Allah, through this moment, revealed a truth darker than slavery itself. It is possible to escape oppression and still carry it within you. The chains had been broken, but the need to bow had not. Chapter 2. Memory collapses under fear. Allah commanded them to advance, to step into the land promised to them, a land flowing with blessings, a land destined for their legacy. But in front of them stood warriors, strong, disciplined, and armed to intimidate the faintest heart. Their shields glinted like dark mirrors. Their spears rose like shadows stretching toward the sky. To the unprepared eye, they seemed invincible, and to the hearts of Bani Israel, they were monstrous. Suddenly, everything that had seemed impossible became fragile. The sea, which had split before their eyes, meant nothing. Pharaoh, whose arrogance had shaken the earth, meant nothing. Miracles, which had defied nature itself, became trivial, mere stories. And fear took hold. You and your Lord go and fight. We will sit here. These were not words of hesitation. They were words of betrayal cloaked in the mask of caution. Because fear is subtle. It does not roar like a lion, it whispers. It does not chain you physically. It strangles your memory, erases the courage engraved in your soul, and convinces you that past triumphs were illusions. The miracles that had split the sea, drowned the tyrant, and sent manna from heaven, gone from their minds. The proof of Allah's power erased. Only the immensity of the enemy remained, magnified by the shadows of their own insecurity. And Allah answered their fear, not with anger, not with destruction, but with consequence. 40 years of wandering, not because Allah needed time, not because He was uncertain, but because they did. A generation raised in chains of fear cannot inherit courage instantly. A people who have learned to tremble at authority must first unlearn terror before they can grasp destiny. 40 years would pass. 40 years for the lessons to sink deep. 40 years to understand that miracles are guidance, but courage is earned in the heart, not borrowed from the sea. Because the mind that forgets triumph in the face of terror is a mind still enslaved. And freedom is never simply physical. It is forged in the crucible of the soul. Chapter 3. Heavenly Food, Earthly Complaints. In the barren wilderness, where the wind howled like lost souls and the sand stretched like an endless sea, Allah provided for His people in a way no nation had ever experienced. No seeds to sow, no beasts to hunt, no toil under the sun, no backbreaking labor. From the sky fell manna, white, delicate, sustenance from the heavens themselves. From the shadows of the cliffs came quail, descending as if summoned by a divine hand. Every morsel, a miracle. Every bite, a message. Yet, instead of awe, their mouths whispered discontent. Their tongues, trained by generations of scarcity and slavery, recoiled at mercy. We are hungry for the foods we had in Egypt. Give us onions, garlic, cucumbers, the taste of the Nile. They longed for the flavor of oppression. They mourned the comfort of chains. And in this astonishing moment, Allah revealed a truth that shakes the mind. A heart can prefer humiliation over responsibility. The taste of freedom was strange. It demanded gratitude, vigilance, and patience. It demanded that they recognize mercy without effort as a gift rather than a burden. Yet gratitude is heavier than chains. Because chains give certainty. Chains give clarity. Chains tell the soul exactly where it stands. Freedom, true freedom, demands something far more difficult, self-awareness. It demands that the heart awaken, even when every instinct screams for comfort in the familiar, even when the mind longs for the shadows of oppression. And Bani Israel, despite manna falling from the heavens and quail descending like whispers of divine love, revealed a truth far darker than famine. Even miracles cannot reform a heart that is not willing to see. Chapter 4. Stone obeyed, hearts did not. The sun beat down mercilessly on the wandering Bani Israel. Thirst clawed at their throats. Mouths cracked. Eyes sunken. Fear whispered that death was closer than deliverance. In that moment of desperation, Allah commanded Musa to strike a rock. He obeyed, and from the unyielding stone, water gushed forth. 12 streams, one for each tribe, spilling in perfect order, flowing with divine precision, pure and abundant, quenching thirst that had burned for days. The rock, inert and cold, obeyed a command it could not understand. It yielded to the will of Allah without hesitation, without question, without doubt. Yet the people did not. Their hearts, hardened by fear and disbelief, remained impenetrable. Gratitude was absent. Reverence flickered and died. Later, Allah would declare, "Your hearts became harder than stone." A terrifying lesson emerged. Stone, though lifeless, obeys Allah. But arrogance, living, breathing, thinking arrogance, resists. A heart, aware of miracles and still unbending, is more impenetrable than the earth itself. They had witnessed the impossible, the sea splitting, Pharaoh drowning, sustenance raining from heaven. And yet, in the face of mercy, their souls refused to soften. Because the hardest thing to break is not chains. It is the arrogance that masquerades as strength in a freed heart. The lesson echoed in silence. Miracles can sustain life, but they cannot awaken hearts. Obedience can be commanded from stones, but not from souls that cling to pride. And so, the streams flowed. Life poured from the rock, but wisdom, patience, and humility remained out of reach. Chapter 5. The Deadly Arrogance of Demand. Bani Israel had witnessed miracles. They had seen the sea part, Pharaoh's tyranny drowned, manna fall from the heavens, and water gush from stone. Yet, their hearts had grown restless, insatiable, blinded by audacity. In a moment that would echo through eternity, they spoke words drenched in defiance. We will not believe until we see Allah openly. Not curiosity, not a quest for understanding, but arrogance. A bold, blinding arrogance that placed human demand above divine wisdom. They did not ask, they commanded. They did not seek, they dared. And in that instant, the sky itself answered their insolence. Lightning descended, a violent, searing strike that cleaved the air and silenced their murmurs. They died. Yet death was not the end, because Allah brought them back, not out of mercy for their arrogance, not out of forgiveness for their rebellion, but to engrave a lesson into the hearts of humanity for all time. Resurrection itself does not guarantee humility. To witness power is not to understand it. To survive miracles is not to embrace them. To return from death is not to repent. Obedience is not learned through spectacle. It is earned in the shadows of restraint, the silence of awe, and the surrender of the heart. This moment revealed the terrifying truth. Even when confronted with the divine, the human ego can still rise, defiant, demanding proof, control, and certainty, forgetting that some truths are beyond sight and some authority beyond challenge. The lesson was as sharp as the lightning itself. Pride can blind even the most fortunate, and no miracle, no resurrection, can pierce the veil of a heart that refuses to bend. And so, the people learned, painfully, visibly, eternally, that daring Allah's wisdom is not curiosity, it is a deadly gamble. Chapter 6. The Golden Calf, when absence reveals truth. Musa ascended Mount Sinai. He left behind a nation that had survived oppression, witnessed miracles, and walked the path from death to life. He left to receive the Torah, a divine covenant, guidance carved by the hand of Allah himself. And in that absence, a truth emerged that had always lurked beneath their fear and doubt. People, when left unchecked, reveal the desires of their hearts. A man named Samari saw opportunity in devotion misdirected. He gathered gold, melted it, and shaped it into a calf. It was a figure, silent, gleaming, false. Yet it emitted sound, movement, life, in the imagination of the people. And that sound was enough. Bani Israel bowed, not because they forgot Allah, not because they rejected him outright, but because they longed for worship without discipline. They craved obedience without sacrifice, devotion without struggle, devotion that demanded nothing from them in return. In that moment, their faith revealed its fragility. Miracles could inspire awe, liberation could bring freedom, sustenance could feed their bodies, but their hearts were still chained to ease, certainty, and immediate gratification. When Musa returned, the scene unfolded like a nightmare. The calf, the bowing, the misplaced devotion. It was a betrayal carved into time itself. Rage consumed him, but it was not the rage of vengeance. It was the rage of grief. Because betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from those who have seen, heard, and yet choose the easier path. Because disobedience after miracles is a wound that cannot be stitched with words. He shattered the tablets, not merely as punishment, but as a statement. Truth ignored is broken. Guidance rejected is lost. Faith taken lightly is shattered. The golden calf became more than an idol. It became a mirror, a reflection of what happens when freedom is met with laziness, miracles are met with apathy, and obedience is seen as optional. And in the ruins of gold and shattered law, a terrifying lesson stood. The absence of guidance reveals the true nature of the heart. And some hearts, even after witnessing God's might, still bow to falsehood. Chapter 7. Revelation Rejected. The Torah arrived, not as a book of words alone, not as ink on parchment, but as a living testament of guidance, law, and divine structure. It was the culmination of centuries of miracles, struggles, and obedience. It carried the weight of history, the clarity of truth, and the unyielding authority of Allah's will. Yet, instead of awe, hesitation emerged. Doubt flickered in their eyes. Their hearts recoiled as if the words themselves were burdens too heavy to bear. They hesitated. They resisted. The fear was not a physical threat. It was the fear of responsibility, of choices that demanded obedience, of freedom that demanded discipline. So Allah lifted Mount are above them, not as punishment, not as terror, but as a reminder carved in stone. Guidance is not optional. Law is not negotiable. Divine instruction is not a suggestion. The mountain hovered, an immovable warning against arrogance, hesitation, and defiance. It was a physical manifestation of spiritual truth. That survival depends on submission. That prosperity depends on adherence. And that ignoring revelation is not merely defiance. It is self-destruction. The lesson was simple, yet terrifying. Obedience is not a choice in the presence of truth. It is the difference between life and ruin. Those who resisted did not resist knowledge. They resisted themselves. The mountain's shadow was long, dark, and immovable, just as the consequences of rejecting guidance are inevitable, inescapable, and eternal. Chapter 8. A dead man speaks. A murder had been committed. A life stolen in silence. No witnesses. No evidence. No justice apparent to human eyes. The people of Bani Israel were lost, trapped in doubt and fear. And Allah, in His infinite wisdom, revealed a solution, a command that would test not their intellect, but their obedience. Sacrifice a cow. A simple instruction. Yet they hesitated. They argued. They questioned motives, details, and legitimacy. Some tried to bend the command to their own logic. Some tried to delay it indefinitely. Obedience, even to the simplest divine command, had become heavy. A burden too heavy for hearts hardened by fear, desire, and impatience. When at last they obeyed, the command did not end there. Allah said, "Strike the corpse." A dead man, lifeless, silent, would now reveal truth. And so it happened. The corpse spoke. The killer was exposed. Truth emerged from death itself. The lesson was terrifyingly clear. Intelligence, reasoning, and speculation can fail. But submission to Allah reveals what the mind alone cannot comprehend. In that moment, Bani Israel learned that divine wisdom often works beyond human perception. Commands may seem strange. Tests may seem harsh. Miracles may seem impossible. Yet, through obedience, the unseen is revealed. Justice can flow where human law falters. Secrets can surface when intellect cannot reach. And the dead man's voice rang louder than any argument. Obedience reveals what intelligence cannot. A final, chilling reminder that in a world where hearts are hardened, minds can fail, and miracles are ignored, submission is the bridge between chaos and clarity, between doubt and truth, between life and resurrection. This was the ultimate lesson for a people who had seen so much, yet understood so little. And through it, the enduring echo remained. Miracles illuminate, but obedience reveals. Final chapter, the warning is for you. This story is not about Bani Israel. It is about us. We ask for miracles, but reject discipline. We want victory, but fear responsibility. We celebrate the fall of tyrants, yet ignore the tyrant within. Allah destroyed Pharaoh in one moment. But dismantling a corrupted heart? That takes lifetimes. The sea opened once, but hearts must open every day. Because the greatest danger is not tyranny. It is surviving it unchanged. History does not repeat itself. Human hearts do. And the greatest trial is not oppression, but what happens after it ends. History remembers kings, but Allah records the truth. What was buried beneath crowns and pyramids has been revealed. This is Twisted Chapter, where history takes a turn into the unknown. Like, subscribe, and enter the judgment written before time.